Hello and welcome to this new episode of the Mean Stack series. In this episode, we're going to demo how to set up and configure our API to be hosted under Azure. So we're going to use Azure App Service for our application. So Azure App Service is a lightweight server that is ready to be used, and it's pre-configured with a stack or different stacks like Node.js, Python, .NET, and so on. In our case, we're going to rely on Node.js, so we're going to set up our project and deploy it into the Azure App Service using Visual Studio Code. And it's going to be very, very simple, so just tune in and you will see how simple it is to deploy an API or an Express API into Azure. So if you don't have an Azure account already, you can go ahead to azure.microsoft.com and then you can start for free. So I'll give you $200 free credits from Azure, and you'll have access to 55 plus service for free, popular service for free for 12 months. So you'll have enough money and enough services to run some application or some testing application. So we're going to start by configuring our Node.js application or Node.js API so that we have the entry point and we have it ready to be deployed in production. So we're going to go back to our Visual Studio Code, and here is our application, like last time. So we're going to get the connection stream once again. This is due to having it into GitHub. I have removed it, so I'll put it back. To configure our application for production or to have an entry point to our application, we just need to create a binary folder, and under that binary folder we'll have a www file that will contain the configuration of our application and the startup script and so on. So in order to do that, you can either manually take it from any other application or go to the Express JS website to see how it works or how it gets generated. Express actually provides a way to configure or to generate that binary file for us. So it's called Express Generator. You just Google it and then you go to Express. Then here you have to install it globally. And in order to create an application, you just have to say Express and then the name of your application. That's it. So in our case, we're going to use the generator to generate the binary file that starts as the application, and we're going to use that file, copy that file and put it in our application, make the necessary changes into the package.json since we didn't have it in the beginning, so we didn't use this Express generator, so you have to do it manual right now. If you did use the Express generator in your API, you don't need to do this, but this is necessary or mandatory for the guys who didn't use, let's say, the Express generator and just relied on generating a regular Node.js application. So we're going to use this script. First you need to install it, so I'll take that script from there, the installer. Then I'm going to install it globally. So I'll just open a new terminal, install that globally. It will take a couple of seconds. Then once installed, I can navigate to my backend folder and then create an application. So I'll just use Express to create the application, Express generator, and create any application. So I'll call it my app and then I'll delete it later. So it's actually already generated. So if I check my app, you will see that I have a binary file, which is www, and that file contains all the necessary configuration for our application to run. So it will use the env port if it's available, otherwise it will use a 3000. So in Azure, we need to configure so that it uses either the environment port, which is 5000 by default in Azure App Service, or it will be just 3000 in case it doesn't exist in your environment or in your deployment environment. But usually in the deployment environment under Azure, the port is 5000, so it will work. Now we're going to copy this file. Either copy the binary and just dump it into the binary or your backend, or you just copy the content and recreate that. So I'll just take it as is and then dump it there, and I'll remove my app so I don't need it anymore. It's just to generate that binary file for us. So now my binary should work fine, so I have to make some changes there. So like the APP and the entry point. So of course my app is called backend, so I'll just take it and dump it into the binary here. And it's server, then the entry point is app, so that's fine. Let's see if our application runs well. Of course, we need to export our application here so that the binary here can take your app. So we need to export it from the app.js. So we're just going to say module.export and export the application. So it's module.exports equal to our app. That's it. Now we need to change the package.json. First we need to stop the running server, and then we're going to change the package.json so that it uses that a new binary file, not going to the new binary the new binary file actually. So in order to do that, you just need to start set the start script to be node bin and then the ww file, so that it starts the application from that file. That's our entry point. And when hosting the application or deploying the application under Azure App Service, it will use that same entry point. So we're going to run our application to test that it works well. So we just say npm start, and the server is successfully port is already in use. We need just to make sure that the port is not in use by anyone else. Of course, we need to remove this because I think I've started the application twice. So we need to remove the start listening here, which is this section. So I don't need this anymore because it will start the script or the application twice. So we'll start again. That's it. Now our application should run well, so we can always test that it works. Actually, we're just going to go to localhost 3000. That's it. So our API is working well, and I can always test my front end to see that it serves the user, and I can delete, I can view the details. So our API works well. So with that new entry point addition, it still works. Now we're going to go to Azure and make sure that we are connected through the Visual Studio Code. So you just need to install this extension if you didn't already. So you just go there and say Azure, and it will give you the extension that you have to install. Once installed, you will see it here on the left side. So when you open that panel, you need to sign up or sign in. If you don't have already an account with Azure, you have to sign up for free, of course, using the link here, which is azure.microsoft.com. So you create a free account. Then once your free account is set up and all good, you can just come back here and say sign up to Azure, and it will ask you to allow to go to Azure. Then you select your account. That's it, you're signed in. Now once you're signed in, you will have your subscription. If it's a free subscription or if it's paid subscription, you will see it there. And under that subscription, you have all your resources. And we're going to be interested in the app service actually, so that we deploy our application there. To deploy the application to an app service, all we have to do is to start by creating a new app service under Azure and under your subscription. So we right click on the app services, then click on create new app advanced. So we'll be asked to name your app. So I'll call it MeanStack API. Hit enter. Here you'll be asked to select a resource group. If you don't have already, you have to click on create new resource group, and then you'll be asked to provide a name. So I'll call it MeanStack RG for resource group. Then hit enter. After that, you have to select the stack or the runtime stack. In our case, it's Node.js. You can always select any other stack if you have PHP, Python, Java, or .NET. So you can always select your stack. But in our case, we have Node.js Express application. We're going to select Node.js 20 or Node 20 LTS. Then we need to select the operating system. In our case, we are going to use Windows. It's recommended to use Windows, or you can select Linux if you think you can configure Linux. Once you do that, you have to select the location. Then you have to create a new service plan for your application. So I'll call it means tag service plan, let's say, or app service plan. Then you need to select the tier, so I'll go with the basic tier. You can always choose the free tier, but I recommend going with the basic tier. Then for the application insight, you have to either create an application insight resource or skip it for now. I will skip. Now it will go ahead and create the web app for us. So normally you'll receive this error, and it's actually regarding the operational insights. So you need to register the operational insight, or do the permission, or grant the permission for your subscription to use the Microsoft Operational Insight under Azure. So to do so, all you have to do is you go to your portal. So portal, then you log into the portal, sign in. Then you go to your subscriptions, and your subscription, you select the subscriptions that you're going to use. Then you go to permissions or my permissions. After that, you have to click on resource provider status, then search for operational, let's say, insights. So it's actually this one here. You have to select it and then click on register. Once it's registered, you'll be able to create the app service under Azure. So we'll wait for it to finish, and then we're going to come back and create our app service. So now our operational insight is registered. We can go back and create our new application. To do so, you just go back and then click on create new web app advanced. So I call it mean API. Then I'll create a new resource group, or I can use the resource group that I just have created. Then select the runtime, Windows. After that, I'll select the mean stack service plan that I have created. Then I'll skip this, wait for it until it finished creating the web app for us. And then we're going to come back and do the settings and the configuration necessary for the deployment. So our application is successfully created, and we can check that it's added here. So all good, our application is ready to be to host our API. So there is one little settings that we have to add to our application so that we deploy the application correctly, or we build the application while deploying. So the settings is called, you can always Google it, so it's called do build during deployment. So we can search for it and see how we can set it in our application. So do build during deployment. So it's called SCM, do build while deployment. So it's an application settings that Microsoft recommends to use when deploying application or APIs to a service plan or an app service. So it's this setting here. Just going to add it to our app settings. So it's, you right click on your app settings and then add new. Then put your app setting key and put true here, so that our application will be deployed and built during the deployment. That's it. Now we are going to deploy our application from the local file, or local files, or local folder. So you have to right click here and deploy to web app. Then you have to browse, select the backend. Then it will ask you to deploy. You just hit on deploy. So the deployment is undergoing. You just wait for it to deploy, and then you can click on browse. It will provide you a browse button once it's done. Now that the deployment is done, we can always click on browse website to see the website, or we can go to Azure and browse to it from there, or browse it from there. So you go to Azure, then you go to resource groups. You will see that your new resource group is added. Then under that resource group, you will have all your resources. So I will go to and select the app service. Then from that app service, I can browse from here to see that my application is running well. Now that our API is running under this new link, I can always test it using Postman to see that my application actually, or my API, is working well. So I'll just copy this link and then go to Postman, create a new GET request, then select API customers to see that it returns the list of customers for me. That's it. So I have only one customer. I can check it always in the back end or in the front end, so I can see that my customer is already there. I can always create new customer here to check that it adds actually. Then any random phone number, save. That's it. So now I can test my API or my production version of my API, make sure that it gets the new customer added. So there you go. So the new customer is already added. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to probably work on the CI/CD, or continuous deployment, continuous integration, by using Azure DevOps, and make sure that when we post our code or when we push our code to GitHub, Azure DevOps will take care of the deployment for us, or build the application and deploy it to Azure for us automatically, or we can set it up to be triggered manually. Thank you.